I don't know what the issue is, but we'll work on it together at break time. All right. Ronald Reagan appointed more conservative judges, and your liberals on the court found themselves increasingly in the minority, particularly Robert Brennan, whom had been appointed by Eisenhower. When he got old, he found himself in voting with the minority because the judges were more conservative as time went on. Now, as a result of the Supreme Court making busing decisions, that is, that students had to be bused to other schools, well, here's what busing entailed. Because the communities were mostly white community and a black community, they said, well, the white communities students from the white communities need to be bused to these black schools and vice versa. A lot of persons complain about reverse discrimination. As far as I know, busing is not done anymore, owing to the fact that a lot of your black families want to send their children to black schools. So today, a higher percentage of black children go to black schools than did in the 1950s or 60s or 70s. But they do it by choice, not by mandate. It's choice. I had a person ask me, okay, how come the blacks get to have their own schools in Whitestone? I said, well, when the smoke cleared, that was the result.
I was not a victim of that. I don't say victim, but just I got caught in that. But it was weird because we were all thinking the school at one school in New York that we were all assigned to go to before they rezoned, they called it.
Yeah.
This school, you know, sports wise, once they rezoned, all of our athletes
Went to the other school.
To the other school.
Oh my.
Yeah. So, but for years we were dominating. You know, everything came out of this New York was from this one high school, and now you rezoned, and now you got all these other little small schools that never won anything. I mean, down to spelling bees, nothing, and now all of a sudden.
Oh. Well, a lot of folks said it destroyed the community spirit, destroyed, like I say, athletic, because schools had their own traditions, and there were a lot of problems. In fact, I had a professor at UT said that busing created more problems than it solved, which is true of a whole lot of changes you make. They bring up more problems than they solve. And I can't say that education got better as a result of it either, but today it's a thing of the past. Nobody's doing it, and nobody's taking to the courts to complain. It's like both sides agreed, we're not going to do this, and we don't want it. It's one of the few Supreme Court decisions that were made that have not been obeyed. It was obeyed temporarily. All right, chapter 31. Book begins with Colin Powell. Colin Powell rose through the ranks. He joined the Army while still in college, went through the ROTC. He was determined the United States would not engage in any more half-hearted wars. But he wound up having to go through September 11, 2001, and this led to more limited wars. So it's like the United States cannot escape limited wars. We could not go into an all-out war against all of Islam, so we went to a limited war against Afghanistan and Iraq. And Colin Powell was very disturbed because this is the very thing he had tried so hard to prevent and said he would prevent. Colin Powell, by the way, worked his way through the ranks, got to be a 4-star general, and then got to be chief of staff, and got all the way up to Secretary of Defense, a civilian. He had to resign his commission. The Secretary of Defense is always a civilian. Anyway, now, the chapter title is Globalism, and that's what I had in mind when I assigned one of the 8 questions was on globalism. And it says that all 4 of your recent presidents, not the last one, but Bush and Clinton and Bush and Obama. You know, we had 2 Bushes. Bush, Clinton, Bush, and Obama all favored globalism. While I'm on the subject of globalism, one of your class, I don't know which class or who, had a most interesting comment on globalism, that it could lead to being taken over by Antichrist. I mean, take that for what you will, folk. But essentially, my fear of it is you really get a true one-world government, eventually, sooner or later, someone like Hitler is going to take charge. It's just simply, a matter of fact, that's why, I'm against it. But globalism, Um, Also, well, we're going to talk about NAFTA. During the North American Free Trade Agreement, the United States and Canada were equal partners. Mexico was not an equal partner to the United States and Canada. And when you get together in a partnership with someone who's not your equal, you're bound to have problems. But not every nation in the world is equal economically, and not every nation in the world is equal culturally, and not every nation in the world shares our values of democracy, innocent until proven guilty. Probably none of you have heard, but just in the last few days, Saudi Arabia had a mass execution where they executed about 30-some people at one time for the crime of exercising the right to free speech. And this is a country that our present president is trying so hard to make friends with. It's difficult to be friends with people like that folk, but our present president is trying hard to.
I have a question, going
Yeah.
back to the Mexico.
Yes.
So, they have now their treaty with the three countries, you're
Yes,
saying?
it's really free country, yes.
Yeah. But the resources being taken away by private companies in Canada and United States are making, basically just taking the resources, not paying taxes for the Mexican people, so would that makes it, why is it less value?
Okay,
in
let me tell you
America?
something that happened. I'm using personal script. We were going to move our wire harnesses to Mexico, where they paid their workers 90 cents an hour. That would be cheap wire harnesses. We moved a bunch of wire harnesses to Mexico and got them back, and not one of them was right. We had to call we had 90-some wire harness workers laid off. We had to call them all back. All of them back in. We never sent any more wire harnesses to Mexico. 90 cents an hour, you got a 90-cent an hour product. In other words, they don't come up to the standards of the United States and Canada. But also the cheap labor means, supposedly we had sent something there they could make, it would mean lots of jobs for people in the United States and Canada. Because Mexico is paying so little compared to what the United States and Canada
But
is
then
paying.
that's why there's so many companies, private companies in Mexico.
They went there for the cheap labor.
that you-
And a lot of them are finding their way back home.
And then they're not paying taxes out of it as well.
I don't know about the tax issues so much, but a lot of them wound up coming back home, come back to the United States. For one thing, those people don't have the work ethic we do. They're more likely to, Mexican workers, I know there might be a Mexican here, but they're more likely to lay out, it's just simply not show up for work when they're supposed to, and not even call in and tell you they're not coming in. All kinds of stuff. Like I say, the quality of the product they made. I mean, the wires on an airplane have to be made to a certain quality and standard. They weren't. At Lockheed, on a given day, we'd have 300 wire workers show up. And of those 300, 290 of them knew what they were doing. 5 of them halfway knew, and the other 5, they might not have known what they were doing, but the other people around them who did know could help them out. In Mexico, they'd have about 100 workers. One of them might have halfway known what he was doing. The other 99 of them didn't have a clue.
Yeah, the higher level of education
What's that?
for colleges students. In Mexico University, they have a higher level than the United States.
A higher what?
Level of students graduating for university are higher
Well,
than
I did not realize that. But another thing they have is a whole lot of gang activity and a whole lot of crime and a whole lot of drug activity. A whole lot of stuff like that that's going on. All right, anyway, I know I'm being negative, but that's involved too. I mean, that's involved.
I guess it's, they have to reproduce production for people that are demanding drugs.
Okay, I'm going to have to move on, but anyway, I mean, this is personal experience. I mean, folks, this actually happened. And so what Lockheed did was made sure that our wire harness people could produce more efficiently. All right. Now, I'll state it, well, no, I won't. I've already said it, so I won't. Now, George Bush appointed Clarence Thomas to the Supreme Court. By now, Clarence Thomas is an old man. Clarence Thomas was a black, but a lot of the blacks didn't like him. He had married a white wife for one, but but they compared him to an Oreo cookie. If you know anything about Oreo cookies, they're black on the outside, but white on the inside. They said, well, this man is actually a white man with a black exterior, but they didn't like him. And then along came Anita Hill, and folks, this is something that just happened less than
That's
6
why they
months
didn't
ago.
like him, because they know Clarence grabbed that tail, man. He grabbed that woman. I mean, he just tell the truth. I had to touch it.
Well,
He grabbed it.
I don't know that he was ever accused of that. What he was accused of was filthy talking. No, I mean, I didn't know
Well,
he
she
was
said
accused.
she said he touched him too. She touched him.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched the hearings. I mean, my wife and I watched the hearings. We had been married just a short time at that time. Well, the year, I believe, was 1989. Yeah, and anyway, what she accused him of, as I understand, what I understand was filthy talking, which is illegal, folks. Now, I will say this, in the workplace, it used to be that for a woman, particularly a young woman who has even at least been attractive, she had to hear a lot of dirty talk from the men. Today, she does not have to put up with that. Today, all this has been declared illegal, which is as it should be. But in the case of Clarence Thomas, I mean, you can argue if you want to, but what I understand was he was declared guilty by most women, guilty by accusation. Now, this is not our system of justice. You're innocent until proven guilty, but what happened in Clarence, also in the recent justice also pointed to the Supreme Court, Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh was guilty by accusation. In other words, if you're accused, you're automatically guilty. And this is not our justice system. Now, again, the thing about Anita Hill, she had not been with Clarence Thomas for 10 years, and it came about also Kavanaugh. This had happened 30 years ago. The statute of limitations has run out on both of them. Now, folk, I mean, okay, I'm almost 70 years old, and some of the things I did when I was young, I would not want to talk about now. I mean, I've not always been perfect. But most of us will do things when we're young that we regret later. But I do not believe in bringing up something that happened 30 years ago that is not happening now and hasn't happened in 30 years and will probably never happen again. To me, this is wrong. But some people think, oh, wait, whatever you did 30 years ago, you should bring it up. And when George Bush was about to be elected, somebody pointed out, and this was true, he had been arrested for DUI back 26 years before. Well, hey, he doesn't drink anymore. Hasn't drunk in 26 years. He once had a problem with drinking, but he overcame it. He quit. Should we bring that up now? I mean, should they have brought it up 20 years later? Anybody?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. Only one vote.
I mean, even with Clarence Thomas, that shouldn't have been brought up.
What's that?
I don't think even with this thing with Clarence Thomas, what happened that long period of time, the space between that, it shouldn't have been brought up, but you gotta remember people.
Yeah, you have to have, folk, I'll tell you something about sexual harassment. If you women want to be believed, you've got to deal with it right now. Now, I know of a woman at Lockheed who was believed. She brought a sexual harassment charge against her supervisor. Basically what happened, they were all working at wire harnesses. I mean, I mentioned because I worked for wire harnesses myself. And all of a sudden the supervisor made an innuendo at a female employee, and she said, all right, all you heard that, come with me to the department manager's office. So everybody, both sexes heard that, put their tools down, and they all marched to a walk to the department manager's office. She got there, and he was sitting there, and the room filled up with the persons who had witnessed it. She said, he said such and such to me. And the other nodded, yeah, they'd heard it was so. This man, sister was a white man. They say he turned every color. He turned red, he turned purple, he turned green, he turned blue. He profusely apologized and promised in front of her it would not happen again. She forgave him to that point. But based upon it, she was believed. There was another woman, her first day on the job. Supervisor made some innuendo at her. Basically, she hired in to work on robotics. And they couldn't get a robot to work. And the supervisor said, it's going to take a virgin sacrifice to get this woman to work, and turned to this new female employee and said, do you qualify? She said, march with me, come with me to this department manager. She told the department manager, she was believed. I mean, folks, you get what I'm saying? Because she had witnesses. Both these women had witnesses. But they dealt with it the instant it happened, and they were believed. Now, hopefully this will be a lesson to you women. You can't bring up something 10 and 20 and 30 years down the road and expect to find witnesses and be believed.
I don't know, man.
Human memory is frail. I mean,
Bill Cosby's dealing with it. Bill Cosby's getting a good taste of it.
Well, okay, there might be exceptions, but basically, I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make. You've got to deal with it, all right. Okay, Thomas did overcome it, he was confirmed, and he's still on the court. All right. Now, in Latin America, our presidents had supported dictators for years, believing that if we didn't support a dictator who was anti-communist, the communists would take over. And this went on, and that's why Ronald Reagan, I think, supported the Contras, or pardon me, that was never proven. But some of Ronald Reagan's men supported the Contras. President Bush sent an army to Panama to capture the Panama's leader, Manuel Noriega. This was a move that made all of Latin America angry. And Manuel Noriega was put in an American prison. He's still there. And keep in mind, he was the leader of Panama, but he was also a drug dealer. This we proved in court. And he probably was. But the move was very unpopular among Latin Americans. Now, in the meantime, about this time, once Reagan left office, and by the way, Ronald Reagan was suffering from Alzheimer's before he left office. We now know that, but this was kept from us. But after he got out, he told the whole world he was suffering from Alzheimer's, and he eventually died from it. But eventually, Saddam Hussein, the ruler of Iraq, he invaded Kuwait because he was deeply in debt. In other words, the Iraqi nation was left deeply in debt as a result of an 8-year-long inconclusive war with Iran. So he wanted Kuwait. Kuwait was the richest country per capita in the world at the time. They had gotten rich because of oil. They were selling oil abroad. So he invaded Kuwait. The whole world came down on him. The United States sent a big army over there, along with Great Britain, along with France, along with much of the rest of the Western world. Sent an army into Kuwait. And they drove Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait. We believed that the people of Iraq would rise up and depose Hussein. They didn't. Okay, I'm going to leave you that. It just occurred to me. It's break time. Be back in about 10 minutes, folks.